What it do, boo-boos? How's it going? I hope you're well. We're here for our anchor message for the week where we dive into our spiritual assignments in soul school. So this will be sort of the lessons that are coming up that we're working with within our process of soul transcendence and development. And we'll get a little bit of insight into the context of what's going on and why it's happening this week for us. If you haven't already, you should go and watch the energetic weather report for the week. That's the Sunday segment that I film, where I'll give everybody like a weekly look ahead at what the energy is going to be like as far as the general essence and sort of like the spiritual and energetic weather of the week. So today we're going into more of the what are we learning, what are we working with? And our first card out was the Shapeshifter. This is from the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck by Kim Kranz. So we got the Shapeshifter, followed by the Orphan, followed by the Vow. Then we have under Shapeshifter, we have the Queen of Wands. Under the Orphan, we got the Fool. And underneath the Vow, we've got Queen of Cups. So overall, sort of like sometimes I'll have a clear little one-liner that jumps out at me about the message. And this time it was, we have to get over our people-pleasing tendencies that arise from our fear of abandonment. And we have to break that cycle and stop putting everyone else first and start keeping the promises that we make to ourselves. So let's go in further. So the Shapeshifter card can talk about, like in a positive sense, it's being humorous, it's being adaptable to change. And this, in taking life as it is and going with the flow and being able to be mutable. But it's also in the energy of exploration and adventure, and discovery. And so that can mean that, you're trying different things and you're putting on different characters, or like, for instance, Beyonce, when she's on stage, she has to take on this character, Sasha Fierce, because Beyonce is a very shy person, and this has always stuck with me, but she does put on that character, that alter ego when she goes on stage. So in a way, in our lives right now, they are changing, they are in flux, because we jumped to that new timeline, right? So we become these new people, we're showing up in different ways, and we're approaching life in different ways. And so we're adapting to the way that our life is starting to take shape. And so in a way, this is, we're coming out and like we're merging more with our higher self, right? The lower self is having an up level. And so little by little, we're meeting our life step by step, and we're starting to practice taking action, perceiving things, handling our triggers, processing our feelings, the way we perceive things, the way we were handling things. We're starting to show up little by little, step by step, in each individual instance, trying to, as what would our higher self do? Where is our higher self leading us or guiding us, right? How do we approach the situation from that level, from that and that higher self is that part of you that, doesn't have fear or ego weighing that self back. There's not agendas. There's no fear that their purpose won't work out in life. The higher self is in tune with that divine order and plan. And so the divine self, has more of a grander view and more foresight and more certainty that in the unfoldment of it all. And so when you think about that kind of peace and that kind of serenity and that kind of certainty, it's like, what if you could show up to every day of your life like that, with that kind of like inner groundedness, and you weren't in a reactive state or in a trauma response all the time? Like, can you even imagine? But it takes work and healing to grow into that. We've all been working on it, and it takes years and sometimes lifetimes for some people. But then at the same time, in Kabbalah, we learn that the miracle is that it can happen in an instant too. It's all it takes is a shift in consciousness, and that shift can happen instantaneously. It's not like in the material world where things have to be put in motion, right? And time and space have to play out. This is on a level of consciousness. So, we're always open to the miracle that it can be instantaneous, but we don't hold ourselves to that standard. We give ourselves grace. Now, the temptation this week, is going to be to feel triggered and to have the temptation to abandon yourself in order to people please. And the challenge from the universe asking us to keep the promises that we make to ourselves and to hold those up and to abide by them, but to also to keep those little promises on the daily so that you keep moving towards the greater promise for your life, right? That divine promise, that divine inheritance that is yours and only yours. That's your destiny. That's your gifts and your opportunities and your people, and all of those things are waiting for you. It's like you have to be in alignment with that path, and that this self that we are becoming, we're getting closer and closer to those big promises that we have towards our goals, towards our dreams, to the person that we want to become, to the life and the vision that we have for ourselves, right? But this is also about maintaining that soul contract in your life, that soul purpose, that vow that you have between you and your creator when you come here to play a role out within this life. So we're not changing ourselves to people please, right? We're not dimming our light to fit in, because so many times when we try to step out and do something big, or even do something that other people don't understand, or maybe they don't agree with for their own reasons, they might shame you and throw shade and give you that haterade, and be a hater and put you down and be disempowering and bully you, or, just sort of like you blow off your dream. But they want to project on you so that you won't keep shining and making them feel uncomfortable, right? Because when you put yourself out there and you try to do big things, it can make other people feel inadequate because they're comparing themselves to you. Maybe they feel like they haven't done the things that you've done or that you want to do. I know that some people can look at me and be intimidated because I try to do things and I try to create things. But I look at other people and I feel intimidated and I compare because they're successful. And no matter how much effort I put, I'm always pushing up against the same wall. And I mean, I'm eventually something's got to give eventually, but nobody is safe from the comparison game. We all have to catch ourselves not to live our life according to try to compete with the person next to us. We're all unique. We all have our own individual talents and things that we bring to the table. And there are all have our own unique purpose. But so with the Orphan card coming up, I feel with the shapeshifter next to it and that Queen of Wands, it's like if you're out there shining and you're charismatic, you may have been shamed and dissed and hated on by haters. People who are jealous, people who are, threatened, or, people that don't like that you're out there trying to do something, So they could, throw you shade and punish you for shining your light, or make you feel like you need to shrink to make everyone else feel comfortable. And it can make you tempted to want to change yourself or dim your light to fit in or to people please. And that is so that you won't be abandoned, right? So that you won't be rejected. Because sometimes we can be amazing and people will reject us because we were too amazing, because they felt smaller because of it. And so many times it's not like we walk away going, well, I was just too amazing. It still hurts. You still feel like you're this like little lone pariah, and you rejected is rejected and not belonging is not belonging. And it doesn't matter why you're not feeling included. It doesn't matter why people leave you out. Being left out feels left out either way. And so if people trigger you and make you feel like they're going to reject you, or that you feel peer pressure to change yourself to fit in, to be more acceptable, not to shine too bright, lest you be punished. If you do that, you're abandoning yourself. And the fear that you have of this orphan wound, that your tribe will reject you, that your family will reject you, that your parents will reject you, that your lover will reject you, that your friends will reject you, that fear, you're just fulfilling that fear because you're rejecting yourself. And you're abandoning yourself and you're abandoning your path, right? Look at what we have here. It's like you're abandoning this self to lower yourself in order to fit in. And so you're abandoning yourself and you're leaving your path. Well, the fool is saying like, no, we need to be spiritually reborn and we're going to heal this pattern and we're going to have a new start and a new beginning and we're staying on the path. But we're going to do this in a way like the fool is not necessarily a foolish person. The fool is actually, in a positive sense, someone who can go forward on a new journey without fears, without the baggage from the past hanging on and lingering on them, And so we are letting go of the abandoning of the self in order to please everyone else. Maybe you felt too guilty, so you gave up a dream because you didn't feel like you were allowed to leave home or whatever. Maybe you felt obligated to be there for someone, so you put something that was very important to you, you let it go, and it's always haunted you, and you feel that like it was a deep sense of abandoning yourself, right? So it's like this is a new chance to go forward and make that up to ourselves, to heal that part of ourselves that we have abandoned for the sake of fitting in with people who never appreciated the gift that we gave anyway, right? How many people are like, oh, I see that you gave up your dreams for me and I'm so grateful for that and I really hold you in high regard and high esteem. It's like no one ever appreciates what you really do when you make that kind of sacrifice. They don't see it. So if it's something that is like meant, that's like in your destiny or it's part of who you are, it's like you have to stand up for who you are. You can't fragment yourself away, right? It's like if you don't hang on to you and you don't protect who you are and you don't steward that, then no one will. No one else will. You are the steward of your own soul growth in this lifetime. It's your responsibility. And yes, your parents are over you for up until a certain age, but then it's you. And you're on your own. And so, I mean, you're not on your own. You have God, you have Jesus, you have angels, you have spirit on the other side that are all helping you. We have armies of spiritual support, just we have to ask for it. So we're never on our own. But as far as like as a soul, yes, we are responsible for our soul journey and our soul contracts. And part of that is embracing and protecting our uniqueness, because we have a purpose, the person that we are, right? We have a purpose and a duty to be that person. We uniquely have a gift that the world needs, that no one else can deliver the same way. And so if we abandon who we are or how we really feel or hide, and don't use our voice, don't speak up for ourselves, or don't create something that was put on our heart to create. Like the world can miss out on something that you were meant to bring. And it's very, very devastating when you see that idea jump over to another person who was a more willing vessel that got it out faster. How many times have you guys had an idea that got taken from your head and made by another person faster than you can do it? It happens. Read Elizabeth, what's her name? Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magick. It's a book about creativity and about, some of the book is about just giving yourself permission and not needing it from other people. But the price of procrastination and squandering your resources or time is that idea, if it's important enough, if it needs to be out in mankind, someone else will get it and it'll get made, and it'll be devastating when you see that it's a success. It's happened to me so many times. It's horrible. So don't abandon yourself. It's the worst. It's the worst wound. It's when you abandon yourself, it creates trust issues for you, because then you feel like you can't trust others, because trust really starts with yourself. You have to be able to discern who you can trust, and you have to trust yourself to have strong enough boundaries not to cave under the pressures of others, right? So building that self-trust. So not abandoning ourselves, being true to who we really are, being authentic. And I am getting that too because, so the Queen of Cups is under the vow. And this is why I feel like this has to do with something that is it's very important that we are true to who we are, because there's some big purpose that is, or something that is playing out that we need to be authentic for. Like our destiny, there are aspects of it right now that I feel are very important, that we don't abandon ourselves because we might miss out on an opportunity or a window of opportunity or time that may take a while to come back again, or, may never, right? Some opportunities pass. And the things that you're meant to do and the things that are meant for you, it's like you will have other chances that will come back, but you may not get this specific one again. So yes, it's very important to be honest, to be true to yourself, and stand up for what you think is right for you right now. And don't let other people get in your head or influence you. You got to follow your own inner guidance. And so the Queen of Cups is very intuitive, very sensitive, very nurturing, very insightful, very wise. However, the weakness of the Queen of Cups is that because of her empathy and compassion, she has a tendency to overgive, right? And stretch herself thin and overextend herself. And so the challenge for the Queen of Cups many times is to love the self first and to fill that cup until it's overflowing and then give from there. So yes, the vow. Keep the promises that you're making, but make sure, I think that the main point of this reading is to keep those promises to yourself. Keep showing up in those little routines. Keep, chipping away at your goals bit by bit by bit. Little bits at a time. And by doing that, that's how you build self-trust. It's how you build self-esteem. It's how you build love and respect and self-worth. Because as you invest in yourself and you keep doing it consistently, it's like, oh, you care about your investment. And so then it's like you treat yourself with more respect, and you expect other people to treat your time and you and your resources with more respect as well. So love yourself first. Nurture your needs and let that be overflowing, and then from there give in the overflow. But yeah, definitely by keeping those small promises to yourself incrementally and consistently, you're going to be going more into the direction over the big picture of the big course of time, towards your destiny, in alignment with your purpose, on that divine path, right? So I think good things are happening, but I don't think that this is necessarily going to be, I think it's going to be a lighter week than it may seem, but it may not come without some triggers. But I think that if we can witness those events happening that are going to make us feel tempted to feel abandoned or orphaned or whatever, Before we go into that deep quagmire of sadness and get lost in the dramatic story, see if you can't just course correct and choose yourself and choose to keep standing in your shining brightness. Stick by your guns. Don't people please, right? Be adaptive to your new life and new situation in positive, constructive ways, but don't people please and abandon yourself and break yourself down. And the more you do that, it's like the stronger and more confident that you will feel. Okay. I think that is all I'm going to say, because I'm going to start talking in circles. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good week. Try not to be reactive. When you feel triggered, try to pause and examine how you're feeling. And try to identify what that feeling is. And then try to explore why you might be triggered in that way at that moment. Like, what is it really about? It's probably not just this thing. It's probably built up from so many things that have happened so many times, right? Take note of those things, but then like keep going back. Okay, when did this originally start? When was this implanted? When did this story or this pattern or this cycle start? Because we're breaking those old patterns and we're starting a new story for ourselves. But it's not going to be without practice. We're newbies at being this new self. It's like breaking in new shoes, you know, or like getting over a habit. Or like, for instance, I sometimes use this example that my feet, I don't know what it's called medically, but on the streets, it's known as being pigeon-toed. When you have one foot or both that kind of turn inward and like your toes turn in when you walk. And I have that. My legs are set that way. And so after ballet training and like just trying to train myself as a young kid, it's like when I'm thinking about it, as long as like everything, like I've practiced and I've trained my body now to hold itself correctly. But like if I get tired, I might slip back into my old like setting, right? Like that old framework. So it's just about like staying aware, right? And when you're tired and when you're feeling like, oh, I could slip back into those old patterns, it'd be so much easier to just do this or get that, or like get mad about this or blow a fuse. It's like if you can practice the pause. The pause is like the grace. It prevents you from taking the action that's going to come back to bite you in the ass. So pause. What a pleasure. Why is this in my movie? And even if something shitty is playing out, you can really think of it as a pleasure. And it's not it's not toxic positivity, but the pleasure of something irritating playing out is that irritant, that trigger is like a big highlighter on what's blocking you and what needs to be coming up for healing or attention at the moment. So in that way, and the more painful and irritating and difficult something is, the more that you are turning, like the more light gets made from that darkness. It's got even more potential to reveal even more light. Like if someone like has a lot of anger towards God and they are determined, they're like, I'm gonna be an atheist, I'm an agnostic, I can't stand God. But then it's funny because like then they live their whole life like proving that they don't believe in God and like rebelling against all of the things that they considered to be like religious projections. But the thing is that when you're living in a response like that, you're still in reaction mode. And so that thing is still controlling you. So like, even though you're apparently don't believe in God, like you're living your life for God. It's just not in the way that you think you are. It's like your whole life is based on like what God wants or what God doesn't want. And so it's like, it's God still controlling you either way. Even though you think you're rebelling, like it's like you're still being controlled and like reacting and rebelling. Does that make sense? So a person who, for instance, has this like deep anger against God and they can't get over it, if that person actually does get over that anger and they actually find a way to believe again and heal that, then their faith is going to be so much stronger than, say, someone who's always just grown up and gone to church and had everything pretty easy and didn't have a lot of hangups about it, didn't think about it very deeply either way. It's just like they just kind of like keep going along. Same for like, I don't know, like people who overcome poverty and grow their wealth. Like, for instance, Oprah, right? She overcame so many difficulties as a young child, right? But that passion that she put and the determination into overcoming those difficulties turns into that exponential light that she was able to share, right? But Oprah prepared her vessel as a vessel to be able to do that, to take the pain and to do something with it and not let it break her down, but to let it break her down to rock bottom so that she could be rebuilt again and transcend that lower self, right? So even more darkness reveals even more light. Okay. Well, I hope that y'all have a good rest of the week. And I think that we're going to be working out some big stuff. So hang in there. Try not to be super reactive. Try to be, pause, examine, and choose from a not reactive state consciously, like how you want to move forward. How do you want to interact in the situation? How do you want to conduct yourself? All right, y'all. Well, tomorrow we will be here for our, let's see, energy. No, that was yesterday. What is tomorrow? Today's Monday. So tomorrow is Tuesday. So that'll be totally Tuesday, our manifestation reading. So tomorrow night we'll check in to see what we need to know about our manifestations for this week and how we need to approach those. Until then, I hope that y'all have, I don't know, good comings and goings. Ciao.